So today is Guadete Sunday. So there's 2 days a year where you're going to see the priest wearing robes, the priest and the deacon. And so today's one of those days. But Guadete, the word means rejoice. That's a command. The type of speech that is, that's not just like a nice suggestion. Well, maybe you could rejoice if you have a couple extra minutes. The church is saying like, rejoice, exclamation point. I am commanding you to rejoice. And what a fitting way to close out our women's retreat. Especially one that's been devoted to the visitation, to like the joy in the midst of chaos, confusion. Rejoice, rejoice. Just a public service announcement. And so right after the homily, normally in the month of May, many churches will do a Marian crowning. They'll crown her queen. Actually, for the end of our retreat, we're going to do a special kind of liturgical thing. It's going to be very brief, but we're going to have the crown. There's a crown in the back processed up, and we're going to crown her queen to close out our weekend, putting her on the throne of our hearts, ruling next to her holy son. And so just a word, so right before we do the creed, the crown's going to come forward and we'll crown her together. So that'll be a spiritual act that we'll all do together. Throughout Advent, for those of them who heard me preach, each week I've been taking a different figure from the scriptures and kind of having them tutor us in how to best get ready for Christmas. And so week number 1, we took the Baptist, John the Baptist. Last week we had Joseph. And this week, obviously on retreat, we've been talking a lot about Blessed Virgin Mary. I want to give Elizabeth a little love here. And so I'm just going to name 3 things that I think she does well and she teaches us so that we can prepare better for the coming of her Mary's son on Christmas. So number 1, what does Elizabeth do really, really well? She is a woman of hope. Elizabeth is a woman of hope. Monsignor pointed out, for that time, people normally lived into their 30s, maybe their 40s. If she's in her mid-50s, she's like what we think of when we think of who's the guy from Mary Poppins that just turned 100? Dick Van Dyke? Yeah, that's like what we were like, oh my gosh, Elizabeth? Dick Van Dyke? She's aged, right? In those days, that was very old. And for all of those years, she has wanted a child. She probably had all these plans for her life, her and Zechariah. We're going to have all these kids, and we're going to raise them near the temple, and then she never had kids. There was this difficulty. And for a long time, she continues to pray, I want to be fruitful, I want to do the Lord's will, but this is difficult, this is a cross for me. She never gave up hope, even though her prayers seem unanswered. For years and years and years, she committed herself to God. She was hopeful in the face of what seemed hopeless. Now, what is hope? Some of you have heard me say before, hope it's this confidence that we have in the future good. Right? There's something down the road that God has promised to me, and I know that it's going to come. But hope is the ability in the now to say, I am confident that that's going to come. And what would be the opposite of hope would be despair. There's a disparity between me and that good. It seems insurmountable. Notice that Elizabeth did not give in to despair. She didn't say, all right, great, it's my 54th birthday. Is God ever going to answer my prayer? She continued to hope. She was confident in that future good, that somehow, some way, maybe in a way that she doesn't even understand herself, God is going to answer her prayer. In the messiness of her life, she trusted. She had hope in God. Now, Monsignor is notorious for telling me this, and I mentioned to some of you in spiritual direction about this. God's plan in our life is most clearly seen in hindsight, not foresight. So if I had you go back to the age of reason, when you were 4, 5, 6, whenever your first memory is, you could probably give me a detailed account of the finger of God leading you. Yep, I was put into this class with this person, and I met my best friend, and then I was put into this school, and God was working there. And even in the struggles, God led me. Hindsight, it's super clear. When we look at that past where God has been good to us, that gives us confidence, hope, that he's going to continue to be good to us in the future. And that honestly, I've heard many people say, even in the struggles of my life, even in the moments in the past where I wasn't sure how this was going to work out, somehow God not only fulfilled what I wanted, but it was even better than I would have come up with myself. Elizabeth, I'm sure, is saying that. So in your own life, as you're looking at hope going forward, what is Elizabeth trying to teach you and me? Reflect on where God has been good to you in the past. He's the same God. He's going to be good to you in the future. In a practical way that you can live hope, and I preached about this a couple weeks ago at Daily Mass, but whenever you're going to make a statement about your life, even a difficulty, yeah, my kids don't go to Mass. That breaks my heart. There's something difficult going on, or I'm struggling with this sin. Always finish your sentence with the word yet. What do I mean? My kids haven't fallen in love with God yet. Do you notice how much that word makes a big difference? Before, it's, yeah, my kids don't know God. It's like this hopeless statement. I'm despairing. There's never ever going to be a... Or, yeah, my kids don't believe in God yet. It's coming. God's good. He's going to win. Or, yeah, we're struggling right now. We're not there yet. It's a beautiful statement, a beautiful word of hope at the end of your statement. So what does Elizabeth do? Number one, she is a person that lives hope. Number two, and we see this live in this picture, we hear this in the story we've been reflecting on, she recognizes God in her midst. Even in the midst of confusion, anxiety, distress, joy, mystery, she recognizes God in her midst, even though he's veiled and in the womb of Mary. She recognized him. Her eyes were open. Think of that song that you'd sing as a little kid at Sunday school. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Let me see your face. Maybe we need to start singing that with our lives. To recognize him in our midst. How often are we sitting, like we even go to prayer, and we're sitting there in the presence of God and we're just talking to ourselves. We're just thinking, why are you doing this to me? Why me? Why me? Why me? And we're unable to get outside of ourselves and actually ask the question, okay, why is a good question, but where are you? Where is a much more interesting question, and it leads to a much more fruitful place. Elizabeth was not asking, are you kidding me? I'm 55. Why me? And then you got Zechariah in his 80s over here who can't talk because God muted him. Why me? Why did I get stuck with him? She's not asking why. She is recognizing God in her midst. Sometimes those why questions can blind us to the more important question, which is where. When I was sick last week, a lot of times I take my health for granted. I'm just like, yeah, it's great. I can breathe, I can see, I can walk. I don't wear glasses. I wake up in the morning and everything's clear. When I had influenza A last week and Deacon Hall was attending to my needs, all of a sudden it became very clear how much God is going up to bat for me every single day. That sickness made me recognize God's presence every single day, giving me the health that I need to do his will. In our life, and maybe Elizabeth is teaching us, are you able to recognize the Lord in your midst? Where do you see him? Not why me, why me, why me. Those are good questions. But to move beyond the why into the where. What is God doing here and now? So number one, she hoped. She never gave up. She always trusted that God was going to bring her to that good. And number two, she recognized him. And number three, it was so beautiful to hear you speak about the small groups. Number three, what did Elizabeth do well? She lived companionship. She knew that she could not carry this cross alone. She needed Zechariah. She needed Mary. She needed the Lord's strength. Archbishop Hebda always reminds us, seminarians, he'd always tell us, God is a God of surprises. He likes to surprise us. Well, my point to us would be, aren't surprises weathered much better together? Man, it is much better to weather the surprises of life with another person standing by your side that understands what you are going through, or at least is willing to stand there with you. Hey, I don't get what you're going through, but I'm willing to be with you in it, thick and thin. You know, my grandfather, I remember this, when he got sick at the end of his life, he was, a beautifully stubborn man. And so It was hard for him to receive help. And I think in some of us, there's a lot of us, it's hard to receive help. Especially because he had cancer and that's what he passed away from, but he broke his shoulder partway through. He fell. And that actually, I think, was harder for him than the cancer. Because there were all these things now, and it was his right shoulder, these things that he couldn't do that he's always been able to do. And so, one thing that I think he had to learn at the very end was how to receive help from another person. God was like, I'm sending you companions. I'm sending you your kids. I'm sending you nurses that are helping you. I'm sending you your wife. And there were times where I remember he would be so stubborn. He's like, I would rather have hot soup fall all over me than have someone feed me. I would rather not have the help and fail doing it myself than have someone help me. That's not the Spirit of the Lord. No. Eventually he learned that there is a beauty in allowing yourself to be helped, to leaning into that companionship. The humility of asking another person for help. You want to know what makes the devil flee, my sisters? Humility. And it doesn't take much. I remember there have been times in my life where I've been tempted. I've shared before, I have OCD, I'm overthinking things. And it's like the devil's workshop. He's like boom, 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 boom. He's overthinking things. You want to know what makes the devil flee? When I call a brother priest and I'm like, hey, can I just talk about this? That moment of humbling myself, saying that I need help, the devil is scarce. He doesn't want any part of that. Companionship. What did Elizabeth do well? She actually could receive help in the places where she needed help. She was humble enough to accept it, and she sought out companionship. That's what you're doing here this weekend. That humility in seeking the companionship of another person, it makes the devil flee, and it doesn't take much. What has the Archbishop called all of us to do in the Synod? Small groups. What have we been called to do here on this retreat? Small groups. What has been the most frequent thing as we weave around this room and people are talking about where the Lord blessed them? Small groups. My sisters, continue this. This is what Elizabeth is teaching us. We don't have to carry this cross alone. I just close with this. They were doing a study in areas of the world where Christianity is the most persecuted, physically, governmentally, whatever. And they said, statistically, the people that kept the faith in the midst of a very dark situation, the people that kept the faith were all in small groups of some sort. They were all in small communities. It's much easier to say, you know what? No, I am standing in this difficulty, and I've got these people by my side. That's how we're meant to be. What is Elizabeth teaching us today? Hope. We never give up. We finish our sentences with yet. God is good, and he will make good on his promises. Number 2, we recognize him in the midst of us, and we name it. We don't just get stuck in the why, but we look to the where. And then number 3, companionship. The humility to say, I need help. That I'm called to live in communion with God and with others.